So join me in welcoming now Dr. Jay Walker.
Herr Professor Doctor, please. So, Mr. Headmaster, members of the faculty, Board of Trustees, Eileen, my wife, distinguished guests, parents, and families. I know you all join me in congratulating the class of 2011. So, thank you for inviting me to speak. Though I speak often, this is my first chance to ever speak to a high school class. In the YouTube generation, that means I have 1 minute and 10 seconds left before it's pretty much over. I'm an odd choice to be your speaker because I was never a good student, didn't win any of those awards. Congratulations there. I dropped out of college for a year and a half, never intending to return to school, but because Eileen was there, I went back. That's the truth, okay? Yeah. You know, your headmaster said I was a good fit for Harvey because I've accomplished a lot of things in my life, but really the only thing I'm best known for is hiring William Shatner to do television commercials for this startup I created called Priceline. So, for the past few years, you've been asking each other, what are you going to major in when you go to college? Now that you've graduated, it's my turn to ask you the same question. What are you going to major in for the rest of your life? What's going to be your specialty? What's going to be the thing you do best? What are you going to focus on? Now, there are dozens of seniors here, and I don't think I've met many of you, but I have an unusual opinion. I have an opinion about what each of you should major in for the rest of your life. It's based on a secret that I learned that I know is true. And people who focus on this life major, who pay attention to this secret, they always get good jobs, they always get paid more, they always enjoy life more, they meet more interesting people, they have better friends. So here's the secret. You become what you imagine. Okay, I'll say it again. You become what you imagine. Now, from now on, no matter what career or path you choose in life, this is the one thing I'm sure: you should major in imagination. Because when you combine the craft of imagination with the two most important attitudes in life, determination and passion, the results will astound you every time. You see, imagination is the most important, it's the most valuable, most useful tool you can possess. Chances are you never took a course on it. In fact, chances are they don't teach a course on it here at Harvey, or really at any high school or any college you're going to go to. There are no courses on imagination. But it's a value that runs through Harvey, and it's been in every class you've been in. It's just been implied. So let's make it explicit for a few minutes. Why? Because I think imagination is going to be the most important skill you're going to need for the next 40 or 50 years. Imagination is like learning to read or write. Once you learn how to do it, it changes the story of your whole life. So let me talk about the story of your life for a minute, okay? But in a minute, actually. But here's some common sense reasons why you want to develop imagination. Number one, imagination is liberating. It lets you go anywhere, do anything. It puts yourself in anyone's shoes. You can persuade other people. You can inspire them. You can lift your gloom, and you can fire up your courage with imagination. It's very profitable. Okay? Every new product, every new service, every new way to create value in life starts with one person's imagination. It's how the world moves forward. When you meet your future spouse or partner, it's all going to be about imagining your life together. If you decide to have a family, you're going to imagine it first. Right? A change in jobs or places to live, that starts in your imagination. Imagination starts everything. Absolutely everything starts with imagination. And by the way, it's fun. It makes us smile, it makes us laugh. Every joke we hear is typically an exercise in our imagination being tricked. We imagine one thing, and the punchline surprises us, and we laugh. Okay? Thinking new ideas is just flat out fun. But imagination is actually the story of our lives. It's the inner story we tell ourselves about where we're going. why we do things, what we want for ourselves and for the people we love. Imagination is actually the lifeblood of stories. And stories are the most powerful things in the world. It's why the Bible is filled with stories. Okay? The idea of America is a story. Personal freedom, democracy, limited government, personal responsibility, land of opportunity, American dreams. This is the story of America. And when you die someday, the eulogy at your funeral will be a story. Stories are so important that at my company, I invented a job that nobody ever heard of. It's called the Chief Storytelling Officer. And let me explain what the Chief Storytelling Officer does. See, as the headmaster mentioned, I run a laboratory that invents new businesses, new ideas, like Priceline, and we invent things that people have never heard of, and we have to sell them to people. But guess what? Because they've never heard of them, they've never been tested, and so nobody wants to buy any of them. So what do we have to do? We have to tell them stories. We literally have to tell them stories about how our new ideas are going to work and why they should buy them and invest in them or come to work for them. So every part of what we do when we create new things is about stories. So the ideas of your future are just as unproven. Who wants to hire you? Who wants to marry you? Who wants to take a chance on you? You're the chief storyteller of your life. You get to write your own story. You know, even though the world is going to throw all kinds of things at you, you actually get to tell the story of how you respond to all those things. You get to choose the story in your head and run it all the time. And you can tell this self, I am a musician, I am an artist, I am a helper, I'm a loving spouse, I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a good person. I'm generous, I'm curious, I'm honest, I'm hardworking, I'm tough, I'm resourceful, I'm afraid, I'm brave. These aren't facts. These are stories we tell ourselves. The way you write your story of your life is with your imagination. Okay, so what is imagination? Well, too often people are going to tell you imagination is for children. It's like a kind of magic carpet ride, and it's not very important. But the difference between childish and childlike is night and day. The reason great physicists do all of their work in their 20s and 30s, all right, is by the time they've hit 40, they've lost their capacity to imagine. You're not far away, all right? That's why Einstein said, if you want to stay on the path to discovery and innovation for your whole life, you've got to think of the world through the eyes of a child. Einstein's perhaps the greatest genius of 1,000 years imagined what it would be like to ride on a beam of light. He didn't imagine the mathematics, he imagined the idea that became general relativity, that changed all of our ideas of space and time, and he did it with a thought experiment of imagination. So imagination is the ability to conceive what doesn't exist, and it starts with those basic questions like, what if, how about, why can't we? Okay. Once it becomes applied to a field, imagination becomes creativity. Creativity is not imagination. It's what comes before. Okay. Then after creativity comes innovation, and that's where you try to invent things. So here's the three-step chain. Imagination, creativity, innovation. Now imagination is uniquely human, okay? In fact, it's what makes us human, right? We can imagine the future and tell ourselves not one future, but all kinds of different futures. It gives us empathy, our ability to project ourselves into other people, the ability to walk in their shoes. So J.K. Rowling, from the Harry Potter books, rather, understands, here's what she said. She said, unlike any other creature on the planet, humans can learn, can understand without having experienced. They can think themselves into other places. You don't have to stick your hand in the boiling hot water. So everyone has imagination. It's a myth that only a few of you, the creative prize winners, have imagination. Everyone's born with it. It works all the time, even while we sleep. Paul McCartney woke up with Beatles tunes in his head. The song became Yesterday. He dreamed the song. Okay? So how do you use your imagination? Well, number one, be committed to it. It's like a muscle. You can't ignore it. If you ignore imagination, it goes away. Number two, look for problems. Look for intriguing problems, and then learn all you can Because the more you know, the more you can imagine. So getting an education actually lets you imagine better. And then lastly, listen to your inner voice, okay? Because inside is what's telling you what your imagination is all about. So the last way you can use your imagination is to live inside your vision. After you start to imagine what your future is like, start to live in it. And it might sound airy-fairy to say that, but let me tell you an interesting story about Navy SEALs. Okay, now, nobody thinks that Navy SEALs are pretty imaginative, right? I mean, Navy SEALs, right? We all heard the great stories about the Navy SEALs. But let me tell you what the SEALs do. They go and stand in freezing cold water in the surf in the ocean. And they stand up to their chests, and they hold a heavy rifle over their heads. And they stand there for 16 to 24 hours in the water. Meanwhile, their instructors walk up and down the beach, and they yell at the SEALs. Don't you just wish you were warm and dry sometime in the future? See yourself as being right there next to a crackling fire, all hot and toasty right now. Don't tell yourself your arms are getting tired. See yourself bursting with strength. Visualize balloons tied to your rifle, pulling it over your head. These are their drill instructors screaming at these SEALs. One SEAL went through the training, explained, you know, your drill captains are constantly urging us to see ourselves already on the mountaintop, enjoying the benefits. And you know, when you're standing there in that 35-degree water with your rifle over your head, once you start to visualize that fireplace and imagine the warmth and the power coursing through your veins, a funny thing starts to happen. The rifle doesn't feel so heavy anymore. The water doesn't feel so cold. You catch yourself spontaneously thinking, I can do this. Living in your vision, whether you're a Navy SEAL or yourself, it's acting as if you were already there, even if all you're doing is taking small steps. And this has a tremendous impact on your subconscious. It helps you find your way to take the vision into a reality, even if you're standing in the freezing cold water. In other words, we become what we imagine. And finally, you can use failure as the best way to fire up your imagination, no matter how discouraged you might feel. Imagination learns from itself. That's why we learn from experience. Not just your own failures, but other people's too. The only real failure is the failure to use your imagination. So now, imagine yourself with a great future. The world is waiting for people with passion, determination, and especially imagination. You can invent your own job or future. You can hire yourself. This is the best economy in history, to hire yourself. You can imagine a life of service to others and new levels of love for family, friends, and country. You see, we, the older generation, we imagined every one of you sitting here today. We were in a hospital room 18 years ago, waiting for you to arrive. And we imagined what it would be like. So we have faith in you, and we pass on to you our imagination for a long and wonderful future. Congratulations.